All right. It's telling me we are live. Anybody, for anybody tuning in, I want to say hello and welcome. Get rid of that echo there. Hello and welcome. This is Back Again from the Broken Land being demoed at Doxacon. I'm Alexi Sargent. I'll be the game master for this session. This is a game that I designed with the in collaboration with my wife, Leah Labresco Sargent, a wonderful writer and designer in her own right, who has herself spoken at Doxacon in the past. The game is called Back Again from the Broken Land. It is a game of small adventurers making their way back from an epic war, telling stories and reckoning with their burdens. It is, of course, inspired by the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, especially the more melancholic, meditative stretches of The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. It's a game published under the banner of Cloven Pine Games. We kickstarted it for Zine Quest earlier this year. And are working on completing it to fulfill for our backers. But there's information below about the game if you want to check out the Kickstarter campaign or sign up to know when pre-orders go live for non-Kickstarter backers. There are some links below the video to check out. Now, Doxacon. What is Doxacon? Doxacon is the Christian sci-fi and fantasy convention. I imagine a number of Doxacon attendees are tuning in to check this out. Welcome, thank you for being here. But for anybody else, you should definitely learn more about Doxacon, right? This video is up on the Cloven Pine Games YouTube, so folks can find it. Who are not already plugged into the cool people going who are Doxacon attendees and organizers. You should look up Doxacon and come in person when God willing, we get to have in-person Doxacon in DC in future years. So those are some plugs and credit paid where it is due. Now let's meet our players. So I'm going to ask folks to just introduce themselves with kind of who they are, where they can be found on the internet if they want to be found on the internet, and a briefly like what drew you to playing Back Again from the Broken Land, what interests you about this sort of a game. So I will start that off. So I'm Alexi Sargent, as I said. You can follow all of my gaming endeavors online at Cloven Pine Games. You can check out other writing of mine by following me at Alexi Sargent. So there's at Alexi Sargent, Sargeant, on Twitter, and there's at Cloven Pine Games also on Twitter, and on itch.io you can download a number of my Cloven Pine Games designs. Eve, will you tell us about yourself next?
Sure. I'm Eve Tushnet. I'm a writer. I do mostly arts and book reviews. I've written a couple novels and a couple nonfiction books. All my stuff is probably the easiest way to find it is on Twitter at Eve Tushnet. It's just my name. And for this, I've played a couple different kinds of RPGs. I'm just getting back into it, having not played it all since high school. And this one, I really liked the focus on storytelling. I'll be really interested to see how that works, the idea of the stories as the move themselves.
Absolutely. Great to have you, Eve. Danielle, will you tell us about yourself next?
Hi, I'm Danielle, and I've done writing. I last did some cake decorating for a job, and now I'm working on a certificate for teaching. And I'm just kind of an RPG enthusiast and gotten a chance to play Back Again at least a couple times before, and it's always been a lot of fun. So I always enjoy coming in and just kind of seeing how each group, how we build kind of this world together, which is a lot of fun. So. And you can find me at Built a House on Twitter if you want. I'm not an architect. That's just a pun on my last name. So
fantastic. Good to be playing with you again, Danielle. Andre, tell us a little about yourself.
I'm Andre, and I'm currently in college, hoping to go be a music composition major, and working at Chick-fil-A in the meantime. My sister Danielle here She introduced me to Back Again from the Broken Lands, and it sounded very intriguing. So she pulled me along into this, and I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to have you here. And let me go over something I call CATS, something that is a tool that's been developed for RPGs, and CATS stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. It's a nice little acronym, and it's a way to get us on the same page, kind of lay out some of the groundwork for the game we're playing. And for any viewers who can listen in on our CATS and get an understanding of kind of what we're going for here, right? Like, so the concept of Back Again from the Broken Land. You are little people, right? Perhaps literally diminutive like halflings, perhaps just little people in the sense that you've come from this out of the way hometown, this nowheresville place, and you've ended up somehow playing an important role in this epic conflict, and now you are picking your way home. There are no massive birds flying you back to your hometown. You have to take the journey step by step. The game doesn't have to follow step by step. It can go into montage, right? It can move across time a little bit so that we get sort of views of different kind of moments of interest in this journey. Our aim is to demo the game in our 2-hour block here. So 2 hours is shorter than I would be running the game to try and run it all the way through at a convention. And this game can work for one shots. Has run as a 2-shot. I think I know at least one person who is like, we're going to do 3 whole sessions of it, and that's great. It's not meant to be a terribly long campaign, but you could do more than a 1-shot if you wanted to give it more space to breathe. But here we're going to be not giving it so much space to breathe. No. We're going to be demoing part of the game so we can get a taste and a feel of it, right? I will talk a little about what the game's epilogue is like, but I do not think we will kind of reach the epilogue at the end. We might instead wrap on a cliffhanger or wrap with little glimpses towards the epilogue, whatever people want to throw out there. Tone. Yeah, so as I said, the game is inspired by the more kind of melancholic and meditative stretches of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. But of course, the characters being who they are, there can still be jollity and humor, right? These are little people who love telling stories and are going to tell a bunch of stories. So there can be fun and lightheartedness interspersed. But there is a type of melancholy that's built a little bit into the game and into the landscape people are passing through, right? Because this is a whole world that has been convulsed by a terrible war against the Doomslord. And we'll answer some questions together to pick out some details about the Doomslord and the war that has just concluded. But that can always bring a somber touch to the scenes that we play out, and that is okay. We shouldn't resist humor if it crops up, and we also shouldn't resist somberness if it is part of our tone. And then subject matter. Yeah, so the game deals with people who have taken some emotional damage and kind of encourages you in character to explore that a little bit. It is about characters who are burdened by things that they have done or left undone or experienced. And a big mechanic in the game is about naming those burdens and then clearing those burdens, usually around a shared meal. So we want to handle that subject matter sensitively and keep everybody's emotional safety in mind. So there's a couple safety tools I have included. For one, the X card is in effect, and that just means if a thing comes up in the game, if something crops up where you don't want it, right? Like where you're like, not so much. That is going to be distracting. That is going to detract from my experience. You can say, hey, let's X card that. And in that case, we would pause briefly, and then do whatever was needed, whether rewinding or fast forwarding or retconning, adjusting the fiction to remove the content that has been X-carded. And anyone can use that. No apologies required. This is part of the toolkit for our game. I also have some lines and veils, and so lines and veils is just sort of preemptively some subject matter we've either decided is off the table or has a veil drawn over it. Players, you can find the lines and veils in the safety and resources tab of our character keeper. And they're kind of things you would expect. I put in some basics, and people should feel free to add their own lines and veils here, right? Like, so lines, again, things that are off the table that we don't want to be in our game at all. Veils are things that we want a veil drawn over. If it's mentioned or alluded to in the game, we're not going to focus in on it. We would cut away or fade to black. So there are lines, for example, on sexual violence or peril to pregnant women or infants, just because I am not interested in running a game that includes those. I have them as lines by default in many of the games I run and play. And then we have veils here on sex and on graphic gore, which is totally in keeping with the genre we're playing, and totally something we will abide by as we play. Kind of veiling any content that goes in that direction. Players feel free to add any other lines and veils to our character keeper, and then take a glance back in a minute to make sure you've noticed anything other folks have added. And the open door policy is in effect. So if you need to step up and get away from the game, you can. Even with our live audience, we are not chained to this game. We can step away. We can grab a drink of water, right? If you're stepping away briefly, give us a heads up so we know. And if you're bowing out, if something's come up that's pulled you away, let us know as well, and we will make do and keep rolling in either case. I'll probably include one 10-minute break around 1:30ish, partway through our session, and then I know Eve has to run right at 12:25 or so to get to the next Doxacon event she's speaking at. So we will probably at that point switch to just a last round of reflection and plugging before we end the recording. Any questions about the safety tools that I just ran down there? Yeah. In that case, we are next going to answer some questions about our world, build a little bit of this backstory. So, the war is over, and the Doomslord is defeated. But I have to ask, who was the Doomslord? And there are some options built in. I will, I'll go ahead and share this so that our audience can see it. There is a tab in our character keeper where we can make some picks. This is the backstory tab where we make some choices about what the world and what the past is like. So, you know what, Andre? Please start us off. Why don't you tell me who was the Doomslord?
From my understanding, the Doomslord was a pretty vicious warlord.
Nice.
He was very, very controlling and very willing to do whatever in his power to achieve his goal.
Fantastic. And we're next going to find out about his goal. Armies fell against the Doomslord. Powerful magic failed. Your band is nothing compared to both the Doomslord and the forces that opposed him. But the threat was so terrible that you had to do something, however small. Danielle, tell me what the Doomslord was seeking.
Since it has 1 through 6, I'm going to roll a dice on that because
that's a nice thing about offering choices in groups of 6 is that if someone feels indecisive, there is always a way to let fate decide.
Okay. So the Doomslord sought conquering the world wasn't enough for him. He sought an end to time itself because if he
he went from warlord to attempted destroyer of time.
Yeah, and does an end to time mean that you're ending time, or does that just mean it's the natural flow of it stops and maybe he controls it now? Or it's an end to the natural flow of time, or maybe that's what he was trying to do, whether or not it works.
These are all possible interpretations. I like the idea that he sought somehow to wrest control of time, but if he were to succeed, it would have meant the end to time, right? Because there's no guarantee Doomslord understands all the forces that he's tapped into. The Doomslord had many terrible powers. Eve, what was the worst of the Doomslord's weapons?
It's gotta be the army of monstrosities, right? Because that could be like your friends and family that have been twisted into monstrosities.
Yeah, absolutely. So his army is monstrosities, but they used to be the ordinary inhabitants of this world that he'd taken and remolded as part of this insane campaign to control / end time itself. You set out together from your home. In your travels, you saw people and lands you had only heard legends of, and even some things whose existence had never even been imagined in your small, quiet land. What is your own hometown characterized by? I'm going to jump back to Andre for that. There's options here like green rolling hills and houses covered in plant life, or salty breezes and cozy burrows within sand dunes. So there's like different sort of terrains and climates that your hometown can be, but whatever it is out of the way, tucked far away from the kind of centers of power in our world. Andre, what do you think?
I'm gonna go ahead and roll a dice for this one.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
So our hometown was in vast fields of wheat, warm, ramshackle cottages, very cozy, very neat. We had what we needed, and that was enough for us.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. I like it. This kind of agricultural settlement. Wherever you went, you were among the smallest and the humblest of the people who were drawn into the war. Some of the friends you made urged you to turn back, but little as you were, you had an important role to play. You may not be remembered in the stories, but it was what your band did that let the heroes of the day win the final victory. Danielle, what was your quiet but crucial quest?
Well, going off of what we've established, I think it needs to be the Doomslord was poking around in magic beyond his control, and I think that as he was going outside the bounds of magic, people realized that you could not go outside the bounds of who you actually are. So I think that we were transporting the true name of the Doomslord to someone with the wisdom to use it.
I love it. So somehow your group became kind of became entrusted with the true name of the Doomslord, and you needed to bring it to someone who could use it against him.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, and I'm excited to hopefully learn a little more about the perils of that quest as we do some stories along the way. All right, now the laurels are being distributed, the bodies are being buried. Eventually, the earth must be tilled even here at the site of the final battle, and new growth brought forth in the broken land. But although the war is won and the Doomslord is defeated, some of his creatures still walk the world. Just so that it's not just a merry old road trip home. There are some hunters still out there, and so Eve, what makes the Doomslord's hunters too dangerous to fight?
Oh, let's see. I want to say they can command the elements of nature. That seems to go with warping time and things like that.
Nice. So it's kind of in some ways a like reflection of the power the Doomslord was himself
right,
accruing.
like a little, almost like a splinter of his power.
Yeah. That's cool. And Andre, what makes the Doomslord's hunters too terrifying to face?
Going along the vein of the twisted army of monstrosities, the Doomslord hunters, they wear the faces of your fallen friends to a twisted envisioning of your own psyche, being able to tap into what you don't want to see the most.
Yeah, and I like the idea that maybe there was this whole army, and now the hunters are what's left, and they can kind of like pull from anything that was part of this army to like kind of summon it up in order to to intimidate and fill you with doubt. Yes, we have a request for me to scroll down the page. I'm happy to do that, Anastasia. So now you can see a little bit lower down the other options picked out. Okay, so that's the backstory. That's where your characters are coming from. Let's learn about these characters, huh? So you've picked out playbooks that are the basis of your characters. Have you had the chance to make the other selections on your playbooks, where you pick out your gear, something you brought along for the journey, your gaze, what others see when they regard your countenance, and your gift, which is something you received during the journey? How are we feeling about that? Ready to start introducing characters along those lines? All right, then we're gonna pop over here to a different tab in our thing. Actually, let me. Yeah, just gonna do something slightly different here. Sorry, you're getting to see me mess around in the Google Sheet. I just think I think it'll be nicer to have a little space there. All right, Danielle, are you up to tell us a little about your character first? You've picked the volunteer playbook.
Yes. Sure. Yeah. So I'm playing Posy Finchnettle. Always fun to lean into the theme of the game with the names. Posy Finchnettle, she was, I think, the youngest of one of the big farm families. They have a really big cottage. They're kind of an institution around town. And she's kind of, it's kind of a smooth operation. So she's used to kind of flittering around from one thing to another to kind of help out. But always is a little distracted and always is a little bit looking off into the distance. And I think that when there were rumors, her so she just grabbed the first clothes at hand when she left. Because I think when they were putting together this crew, she knew that like she was either going to be kind of like stuck at home doing chores forever, or this was a chance to actually get out and do something, because not a lot of people wanted to go.
It's not that everyone was clamoring to come along.
Yeah. So I think it was one of those things where it filters down from someone to someone else to someone else. So by the time she heard about it, she did not have time to put a bag together and was like, okay, I gotta go because I'm getting this information 2 days late anyway, and like headed out to the center of town where you all were.
Nice. And you have a bright and believing gaze, and your gift that you have received along the way is a bird that speaks only to you. What type of bird?
I'm thinking it's a like a dark bird. I don't know if it's like a not a starling, but something like it. I think that there's probably a bird that people in our area have come to think of as like a bad omen, that kind of when it turns up, and I think it is usually silent. Like, it's probably not super from around here, but it was this bird turning up a lot that was making people suspicious. But I think Posy ran into this bird, and it was actually this bird then looked at her and started singing, and then looking out, and it was the first time she'd ever heard that. So I think that when we see this sort of dark bird, it sings to her whenever we run across it, and she's not quite sure what it means entirely, but
okay, that's awesome. So it's something you run across rather than something that is perched on your shoulder all the time or anything like that. It's like kind of, it's got its own thing going on, but when it appears, it sings only to Posy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else we should definitely know about Posy before we meet our next companion?
No, I think that she is really determined to go, and I'm not sure that her parents and everyone else were thrilled about it. So I think that they have definitely may have sent somebody after her to get her back. She's not exactly sure.
I'm happy to play to find that out. Did you happen to grab a picture for her? Not yet. You don't need to, but I just wondered.
I had not yet. I was thinking, shorter than the other short people. So on the short side, even for short people.
Amongst these little adventurers, the littlest adventurer.
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful. Andre, are you ready to tell us about your character?
Yeah. So he is Marion Karst. He is the youngest of 7 siblings of a family that's not entirely notable, very, very middle of the road. But all of his siblings, save for one, his second oldest sister, left to go fight in the war. So they all left and left Marion with his sister and his family there to care for things, to make sure everything kept going. And he resented it a little bit because he felt like he had a sort of duty to go along with them, but he was left behind since he was the youngest. And at a certain point, when it had been a while and he hadn't heard any more from his family or from his siblings, he decided that he had to do something about it. So he took his sister and just grabbed the first thing, which was the leather armor, which he would use to protect his sheep and the farm that they had there. Grabbed the leather armor and headed off with his sister to go and find his siblings. Yeah.
Awesome. And do we know what became of his sister, or are we going to find that out as the tale unfolds?
That'll be something that we'll find out.
Yeah, fair enough. You have that leather armor, the worse for wear. You've got a silent and steady gaze, and the gift you received is the subtlest poison. How do you keep that, right? Like, is it in a little like vial somewhere hidden on your person, or what's the where do you keep your extremely subtle poison, Marion?
He's always had a bit of a knack towards pharmacy, so he's very fascinated in kind of the what plants are deadly, what are not, and he created a tiny little tincture that he keeps with him in a little vial on his hip, just in the event that he absolutely needs it. So
absolutely, that is a weapon of last resort. Fantastic. Anything else we should definitely know about Marion before we meet the next of our companions here?
He wants to do his best. He really does. Maybe he doesn't always know what that is. He can be a little bit conflicted sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, can't we all? Good to meet Marion. Thank you so much, Andre. Eve, you have chosen the imposter.
Yes.
Which has as its concept that you ended up on this quest due to a stolen identity, right? A folk hero that you were impersonating. Tell me a little about your imposter and their deal.
Yeah. So the name that I am currently using is Flamen. That is not the name that you all knew me as in my youth, when I got in trouble frequently in the village for playing tricks and pranks and whatnot, but I always claimed that I had a grand destiny, and what do you know? I was 100% correct, because I turned out to be one of the many faces of the great folk hero Flamen. Flamen, the great trickster, the great inventor, who is especially adept at tricking and getting the better of evil powers and forces. As I have many tales of my exploits, some of which you may have seen, sort of, others of which you are having to take on trust. But yes, I'm Flamen. For real.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and indeed, the Doomslord has been defeated. So who's to
That's
say?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. And you guys don't totally know what led me to leave the village in such a hurry yet.
Nice. As gear, you have a cape of striking colors. Do you want to describe anything about that, or should we all just imagine the most striking colors we can?
So the fun thing about this cape is that when I'm not wearing it, it actually looks dark and it looks like it would be a good cape to hide in, which is why I grabbed it. But then when you put it on, it is not that at all. It's actually quite bright and displays you prominently, which is in some sense the story of my life. But that's my cape. It was supposed to be a camouflage thing.
Oh man. A fiery and focused gaze. I hear you. And a quill that writes legends tucked behind your ear. So is that just like an ordinary quill pen that you got tucked back there, or is there something kind of like obviously distinctive about it?
No, I think it looks normal. It's part of the purpose of it is that if I can't think of anything in the moment, I'm going to whip out the quill and be like, oh, I just have to write a letter real quick and see if anything comes out that might help me.
Nice. Oh, that's really good. All right. We've got these 3 small adventurers, and we know that they have succeeded, right? They transported the true name of the Doomslord, and the person that received that was able to use the name to bring down this vicious warlord trying to seek an end to time. But now the fellowship here must journey back, right? Must make the walk home to return from the Broken Land to their hometown. And I think when our story opens, we get these views of the outskirts of the Broken Land, and we see a slag scarred bastion, right? Like that is a sight here from my journey path, and that is where I think our story will pick up with our fellowship of small adventurers, kind of like picking their way through the kind of partially crumbled edifice here of the famous slag scarred bastion. Just to help paint the scene, right? To help us all visualize what this is, or get the sense of the characters' reactions to it. I want to ask one of you, and I think it's going to be Posey. What terrible things are said to have been done here at the Slagsguard Bastion under the pressure of the Doomslord's siege?
I think that one of the slag that's volcanic, right?
Oh yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Molten like metal or rock was part of what scarred this place.
Yeah, I think that tales of his control over the elements led to and then rumors coming from here led to hearing him combining both fire and rock to kind of crash them together and create these like a natural kind of like volcanic creatures that would kind of roam about as, large monsters that his army could control. And some think that the magic has not fully gone out of some of the elements around here, that things, and controlling those things, smashing them together has left the place haunted in a sense.
That is wonderful and evocative, and I can definitely see how that would send a shiver down the spines of all but the boldest of adventurers making their way through this place. So Flamen, as we pick up, as we see you and your companions, kind of navigating this, what do we see? Like, what would we get as like an introductory shot of Flamen, in the Slagsguard Bastion?
So everything's real dark and grim and gray, and then there's like this guy with an incredibly colorful, bright cape and a big hat with a feather, big bright red feather, who just sort of looks like if you dropped like a McDonald's Happy Meal toy in the middle of like Chernobyl.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, and this is kind of, does the disposition match the like, kind of like visual contrast there?
Apparently, whistling along, wondering why everyone else is looking so gloomy. After all, we won. We're going home. Which
Beautiful.
some of us may or may not want to reach, but we're going away from here.
Yeah, Marion, what do we see of you? What would we get as an introductory shot of Marion Karst, the bodyguard, in this slag scarred landscape?
I would be, you'd be very, very, very cautious. You're not at all given to, we've won, so now I can relax. He's still very, we've won, but not only at what cost, but he could still very well be out there somewhere, very uncertain and cautious, not easily willing to trust those around him. So keeping what he has to defend himself close at hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And Posey, are you kind of sticking more closely with one or the other of your companions, or like what's your attitude and kind of approach here?
I think that she's kind of doing the thing in the middle, like occasionally going up and kind of marching behind Flamen, like, yeah, woohoo, and then kind of like dropping back and being with Marion, like, no, you're right. We should definitely hang back. So kind of like torn in between, and occasionally like picking forward a little bit, and then feeling Marion tug her back and being like, okay, I'll go hide behind a rock every now and then, and then like probably whistling a little harmony when she can to to this John D. Dune ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you come, and I guess Flamen, you would come first if you're taking the lead. You come to a place where there's just an unevenness, right, of the ground itself, where like something struck this place so hard that there's one part of ground that's lower down, and then one that's that's higher up, and so there's this kind of like kind of crumbly burnt sort of kind of like new cliff face in front of you. Like it hasn't been like weathered by the elements so much. Like all the scars on it are just the scars of its creation, right? As like it was violently kind of like smashed up out of the ground. There's kind of a bit of a like tower that's been split in half, right? Like whereas like there's like kind of one tower, one half of that tower down on your level, and then like you look up and you see like a half tower with the like interior visible up at the top of this this discontinuity, just sort of standing there, kind of absurdly presented in cross section. It is not something that you can easily scramble over, right? So Flamen, I want to know, what do you do?
Well, I'm getting a real negotiating an obstacle vibe from this situation.
Certainly, it seems like an obstacle in need of negotiating.
So I think,
what's your approach to that?
Yeah. Well, have I got rope? Can I make some sort of is the tower divided up into floors so that if we boosted each other, we could climb up that way, like climb up to the ceiling of one of the next, and kind of, do you see what I'm saying? Get into the floor above,
nice.
And go up piece by piece. Let's try doing that.
Yeah, you could attempt that. Obviously, the tower being bisected means its stairs may no longer be kind of like fully there. So there may be like moments where you have to boost each other, like you were saying. But yeah, you could try like entering this half tower, and then within like the weird environs of a half tower with a wall of earth kind of coming up through this split structure, try to make your way up through it to get to the other side of this big break. Absolutely. Tell me a little about kind of what what that might look like, and then we'll figure out what you're rolling with, because this is a negotiating obstacle is a move that kind of can cover many ways of trying to deal with a problem, and so you can potentially roll it with any of your 3 stats: swift, keen, or true. It just depends on which you're using to negotiate the obstacle.
So I think I'm maybe the tallest, but not the sturdiest. So I think I'm going to try to be kind of in the lead of scrambling and finding footholds and things, and then talking to Marion and saying, can you be at the rear to boost people whenever we need just like help getting to the next level? And to see if and also, I think we're all going to have to be on our alert that there is no lingering magic within this tower itself. A broken tower seems like the exact kind of place that people would have been in long enough for bad things to linger.
Yeah. So that sounds like you're taking kind of a management role.
I guess. Sure.
And plausibly that you're rolling with keen.
Okay.
Yeah. And Marion, Posey, are you going along with this? You're kind of up to follow Flamen's lead on this tower.
I feel a very since I'm the youngest, I feel very willing to cede control in a sense. This person knows what they're doing. I can listen to them.
But you're doing
I love it. You're the bodyguard, but you are the youngest, whereas Posey is the volunteer and is the smallest. So there's like
Posey has appointed herself on very important like chandelier duty, where that means pointing out each chandelier as we're climbing up. Like that is her contribution.
In case you need to swing from a chandelier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the one thing she hasn't done yet on this on this job. I think because she's been reading all of the posts about Flamen and knows that like swinging is such a vital role of being an adventurer. So she's like, I'm sure you noticed the chandeliers that we passed.
You've heard the ballads, right? Of
that's right. That's right. I'm always swinging from stuff.
Enters via chandelier. Yeah.
Just be careful, Posey.
It's okay. I've got like my knee in your neck as I'm like trying to do it. Like it's fine.
So, Eve, would you go ahead and make a roll?
Yes, indeed.
All right.
What happens?
2d6.
Okay.
Okay, cool. That is.
Oh,
that
can
is
you
a 7.
see it? That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We can see where you've made your roll here, actually. So you.
Well, that could have gone better.
Well, 7's not bad. 7's a partial success. And
okay.
That's without the modifier even.
I guess that's true. Yeah, so it's really a 9.
It's really a 9. Now a 7 to 9 is the same result, right? 7 to 9 is the partial success result. But that is not bad, right? Partial success is still a success. What it means when you negotiate an obstacle, say how you're approaching it, and then roll with whatever is most appropriate. We rolled with keen. On a 7 to 9, the GM will present you with a hard choice or painful cost. Okay, fair enough. I think what happens is you've gotten almost to the top of this half tower, right? Like almost all the way up to where you can get out to solid ground once more. When the air starts getting hotter, right? And like let's see, and Marion, you're in the rear. You feel the stone under your foot just starting to sear hot, right? Like it's suddenly like uncomfortable, like intensely uncomfortable to touch, as there's just a slight reddish glow starting to surround to surround us. and like a little bit of motion, right? Like it's shaking slightly. And I think the order was Flamen was kind of leading, and Marion, you were holding back. Flamen, you can definitely get out of the tower safely, but you don't know if all of your companions will be able to follow you.
Okay, no, I'm not. I'm at this point not that sketchy. I'm gonna try to go and reach down and grab them and haul them to safety.
So you are kind of staying as the tower gets hotter to try and like pull them up and pull them out.
Well, I think the obvious thing to do, right, is to wrap like my hands in the cloak since I've got the thing.
Yeah.
And or even lower the cloak down and be like, grab hold of this. I'm assuming it's sturdy enough to hold.
That's interesting. When you kind of like pull it off, does it like turn to that
it goes
camouflage
black
dun color?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I think you could totally do that, right? Like Marion, Posey, you grab holds of the cloak that's been offered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're able to like hoist them out, and like the three of you kind of go like tumbling out, just as the tower is suddenly like magma, right? Like, and like the like half tower that you climbed up has like turned to liquid flame, right? And kind of like oozes slowly down the side of that cliff face, right? But now you're above it. Now you can you feel the waves of heat coming off of it, but you are on solid ground up above it. And I think you put the cloak back on, Flamen.
Once more, I save the day.
Yeah, and you put it on, and then you see little handprints burned into it from where your friends grabbed at it, and these show up like dark against the colorful bands of the cape.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Fallman. I didn't know we were gonna. Thank you, but
better that you saved our lives. We greatly appreciate it.
Well, that's just what I do, as a folk hero.
It is, and you didn't even have to swing on a rope. That's so wow.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Marion, are you okay? You okay? Are you?
I'm doing okay. Yeah. Thanks to Flamen. That was very heroic. Living up to a lot of what I've heard.
I know. Exactly. Well, yeah, I guess we'll just have to keep going because we're going home now, where it'll be really exciting still. And it's definitely be super, super exciting. Okay, cool. So because that is we are still going home. Yes. It's still this way, I guess. Right.
Yeah. Everyone excited to be heading in the right direction.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. You hear a creaking noise from one of these nearby kind of partially collapsed readouts of the Slagsgard Bastion, like something being cranked, right? And then a voice comes ringing out and says, "Don't make another move, you three."
Whoa.
I stop in my tracks. Very, very defensive.
I think that so we don't see anything popping out yet, or
are you? I mean, so I'll tell you what you see with a glance, and then possibly you're gazing into the distance to find out more. There is it's like a covered ballista roost, right? Where a big kind of giant mechanical crossbow, a ballista could be mounted, but in a place where it's hard to get at whoever is operating it. So yeah, so like intact at the top of this like otherwise crumbled readout is this ballista roost, and you see that the ballista has been cranked to point towards you. So yeah, are you going to gaze into the distance, perhaps, Posey?
I think that I will gaze.
Yeah, so this one this is free. You don't have to make a roll for it. It just says, when you gaze into the distance to search your environment or memories for answers, first describe what fragment of loveliness in the landscape has caught your eye. Then ask 1, what am I overlooking? What do I remember learning about this place or people? Or how could I make peace here? And the GM will answer honestly.
Okay. Yes, I think that Posey looks at this big ballista, and the big structure and frame remind her a little of the big, like a really big version of the kind of harvest equipment we used to use to kind of roll through the farm. Like the biggest farm had one, and everyone else kind of had some similar ones, but we had this big frame that we got some horses to pull, and it would help pull up rows. And if Posey was really good, she got to occasionally, when her dad wasn't running it and it was one of the other family members, they would let her climb out and sit on one of the arms of it so she could kind of see it all happening below her. And so she looks at it, and then even though it is big and scary and imposing and so much bigger than she is, it just reminds her of like, oh, okay, I bet that's a great place to go sit on, and you bet you can see a lot from there. Nice.
So that's awesome. The fragment of loveliness is just the kind of impressiveness of the ballista. Sure. What question do you want to ask?
So I think I would want to know, what do I remember learning about this place or people?
Sure. That's a good one. Yeah. You can add a detail here about how you learned this if you want. I think you heard of the great siege of the Slagsgard Bastion at one point during your journey. That you heard that the dwarves of the Northern Thaindom protected the bastion to the last, but ultimately it fell right before the Doomslord's forces, and as far as the world knows, all of the dwarves were wiped out.
Oh wow. Okay.
That's what you've learned about this place.
Okay.
You can and probably that then if you whisper something about that, everyone will be reminded of it too, right? Like, well, that's Posey, you're the one to think of it, but that's a story, that's a tale that has been heard by all of your fellowship, I believe. Marion, I want to check in. What are you thinking or doing here?
I'm very torn between trying to run and get us all as far away as we can, or to try and kind of sue for a peace in a sense. I'm trying, very, very unsure if I should try and do anything at all. A lot of things going on. I'm not really sure.
Got it. So you're more torn?
What? Sorry, you broke up.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, your video just did a
cut out there. Cool. So I was saying, it sounds like for the moment, Marion is more kind of like torn between different directions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's never been gifted with words, so he's not much into. He doesn't have much in the way of charisma.
Yeah. Here's what I'm wondering. Is it possible that feeling, right, of being pulled in all these directions, like, brings to mind one of your burdens? Because a thing you can do in this game, right, like whenever you have a quiet moment, is to remember the name of one of your burdens.
I hadn't thought of that. I think it could, but it's not a burden that I in the moment feel that I'm able to really dwell on because of the the potential severity of the situation.
Absolutely. If you want to give it a name, it's the sort of, we can explore it more, but perhaps when our companions are able to share a meal. But if you want to jot a name down, and the burdens can be, guilt about such and such, can be, still holding on to this item that that represents something emotionally to me, or it can just be, like indecisiveness, right? Which is a totally legit burden to name based on this moment you're experiencing here.
I would say the name of the burden would have to be the very poison flask that I'm holding.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you like feel that weighing you down as you're taking in this, what's going on. Flamen, I think I'm interested. Have you been holding still as per the instructions of the rough voice coming from the ballista direction?
So I have. So I'm sorry, I missed a little bit about the dwarves. Were the dwarves on our side?
Yes,
These
in
are
that they
dwarves
were opposed to the Doomslord. Yes.
Can we summon some dwarves?
Can you
do we
summon
know
some
how to
dwarves?
be like help dwarves?
Fascinating. Just so
I want more people here. Basically, I don't like just looking at a weapon. I want something I can talk to.
how interesting.
So
So
should
as far as the world knows, the dwarves were wiped out by the Doomslord here.
Oh,
I guess the you might be wondering whether that's true, right? As you hear this voice calling down from the from the ballista perch, right? But you wouldn't expect dwarves to come swarming if you were just like, hey, dwarves.
Well, but can I try just yelling for help?
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna try that.
What do you say?
I think. What do I say? Help! One of us is hurt. We need help getting out of here. We just want to pass through, but we can't get through.
Cool. Yeah. So I think like like a gate you didn't see in this like ruined readout kind of like creaks open, and then like very very cautiously a small group of armored dwarven warriors are kind of like moving along towards the towards the three of you, right? Like holding spears, and in the lead someone says, I don't see any injuries. It could be a trick, right? Like calling up like back towards whoever is manning the ballista, right? But they're approaching. Yeah, now you can make out some faces and beards and facial piercings, right? That these dwarves have, and they're kind of within like shouting distance, within like easier hailing distance, right? Because there was someone was shouting at you up from the ballista nest, but now this group is closer.
I'm gonna collapse holding my ankle.
my boy. Okay.
Amazing.
That's gonna be like, are you signaling to us? Because I think Posey freezes like halfway to whatever weapon she has. Like, do I need to have an injury here? But you have it covered.
Marion is very confused, but is willing to follow the lead if he needs to.
Does Marion fake an injury too then, or
Marion hesitates and then says, my shoulder, it's broken.
He's just like, I feel fine.
But he's quite terrible at acting.
Oh no. Just like, oh no. Oh
Ouch.
no. Ow. Okay.
Ouch. Flamand, are you hoping to negotiate an obstacle here, or are you cool with the dwarves just approaching and coming to their own conclusions about what's going on?
Oh, interesting. So the dwarves themselves would then be the obstacle.
Yeah.
Well, their suspicion is the obstacle.
Ah. Yeah, so there's two ways I can do this. I can do the all that glisters thing, since I am trying to trick, although not an evil force. Nonetheless, I'm trying to do the thing that my folk hero does.
That is legit. I'd be interested in that. That's your special move. When you're in need of a true hero, tell a story of the folk hero the rest have mistaken you for. Roll plus keen. That's awesome. And you can draw from any of the story prompts that feel appropriate, because there are a couple stories listed, right? Stories of the journey, stories of home. You wouldn't tell a story of doom. That's only for if things go much worse for you. But you could take a story of the journey or a story of home and just interpret it through that lens of the story of the folk hero you've been mistaken for.
I mean, this seems like a job for how you got that lingering scar, no?
Oh, yeah, tell me.
Yeah, do you see this terrible scar on my calf? This happened as we were facing a horde of the Doomslord's minions who seemed to have the faces and the bodies of babies, but were able to hurl bolts of fire. I was not able. I mean, who's gonna hit a baby, even if you know that it isn't really? So I had to face them backwards as I flung magical darts over my shoulder, and in this way, I received a terrible wound on the back of my calf from one of these twisted monster babies. And I am still limping, as you can see.
Amazing. Yeah, that roll plus keen for me, if you would.
Sure. Okay. So that's a 6 plus 2, so that's an 8.
All right, nice. On to 7 to 9, choose 2 from the list. You can. So these are 3, 3 benefits, and you get to choose 2 of them. One is your companions get a golden opportunity to escape peril or win the day. One is no one notices the inconsistencies in your tale, and the third is you do not need to take on an unnamed burden. So which 2 of those do you choose?
I would certainly like us to get a golden opportunity to escape peril, and I think that the dwarves could be potentially helpful in other ways, so I want that.
Yeah, all right. Got the golden opportunity.
And what of the other 2? Oh, okay. Actually, yes. It's going to be no one noticing the inconsistencies. I'm going to take an unnamed burden.
Nice. All right. So for the moment, no one's picking apart this story that Flamen has told, but you feel like a burden of some sort settling on you here. Cool. Noticing the time, I'm going to say let's take our first break here, and we'll pick up after the break with that golden opportunity. We'll see how Flamen's ruse, creates that space for companions to win the day. So let's take 10 and be back here at 1:45.
Awesome.
right. How's everybody doing? Nice. Yes, I'm enjoying this so far. I think we're gonna get to tell a fun little slice of this journey with these characters. I love the ruse here from Flamen, so that is gonna open up this golden opportunity as promised. Okay, anybody tuning in? Thank you for joining us for some more Back Again from the Broken Land. We're picking up with our small adventurers in the midst of their homeward trek, having encountered a suspicious group of dwarves in the ruins of the Slag-scarred Bastion, and Flamen the Imposter, a adventurer impersonating a folk hero, has pulled one of the the classic stunts of faking an injury and telling a tall tale of his prowess in battle. And what we see is the sentinels kind of like approach warily, and then like as they hear the story unfold, they like seem to do a double take, right? There's kind of like whispering from among them, and then like one of them steps forward and says, "You say you were fighting against the minions of the Doomslord, but we had heard that the Doomslord had taken small people like yourselves and twisted them into his spies, and we thought you had come to root us out, finish the job the Doomslord started. But you say you are on our side?" And he says, with like some distrust still, but like it's a real question. And this is a golden opportunity that your companions that's been opened up for your companions, Flamen. So let me ask your companions, Posey, Marion, what do you do?
I would try and reassure them as much as possible, being very straightforward. Just yes, we have nothing to do with the Doomslord. He and I start to get riled up, get really passionate. Like he's destroyed everything that we love. He's nothing to us. We destroyed him. We ended him. We are not. I can't. And I just start to get really emotional.
And I think that Posey just sort of pops in and is like, "So do you have extra seats at the top of those ballistic roosts?" Like, yeah, I think and then is like, sorry, I just and I think I want to use guileless, where I'm that is
a move that you have.
My special move.
Yeah, your special move. It's when you approach a stranger and tell a story of home, they are compelled to respond in kind with a story of their home.
Yes, I think that this is an ambition from before the journey that she still cherishes, and I think that she is going to tell them, we're little people too, but we come from this farm town, so all of our buildings are really small. We have these small structures, but I mean, we have some of the tallest farm equipment on our farm, but I've still never got to, and we just climbed up that tower before the horrible magic took it, but I still never got to get high enough so that I could see the rest of the mountain range. And we're just about to get home. And so I really just wanted to see if I could see the mountains in the distance, because we're about to go back and it's really flat.
Amazing. So your ambition is to be high enough to see the mountains.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah. So the lead of this this party of dwarves kind of like I think like leans down, because even though they're dwarves, they're still like slightly bigger than you.
But like she just thinks that you'll understand because maybe you get called little people too.
Yeah. So like
I'm sure she probably says that.
The lead dwarf inclines his head, right? Maybe takes his helmet off and tucks it under an arm. And you see the weathered lines in his face, and the beard that has gone like white in streaks, right? And he says, "Oh, little one, if only you had been here to see this bastion in its prime. There were 9 towers, each clad with a different precious gem, and each one taller than the last. If you had gone to the peak of the Sapphire Tower, you would have seen not only the mountains, but the whole world, from the sea to the desert.
Wow.
But in the siege, it wore away in an instant. It was like the Doomslord struck with the force of countless aeons, and everything that should have lasted for centuries crumbled under our feet.
Well, now that he's gone, maybe even though the things are gone, you guys are still here and you still remember that. He couldn't take that knowledge. He couldn't take that knowledge from you guys. And I'm sure that compared to forever, maybe you could help, maybe you could build some more towers since you remember how to do it. But she's like, that really sounds fantastic though. I mean, I'm sure that there are some really interesting vantage points from the mountains still. And maybe but maybe that story, I don't have to climb up and see it, because the way that you talk about those towers, that's cooler than maybe just looking at some hills. Because see, I can kind of see those right there, but I can't see any sapphire towers. And then you just told me about them, and so now I have that memory.
And I think he chuckles slowly, punctuating this, and kind of gestures, and the other dwarves kind of put their spears over their shoulders, no longer in kind of ready position, and he says, "You people seem all right." And I guess my question for our fellowship is this something where you'd be interested in sharing a meal with the dwarves before you move forward on your journey?
Yeah.
Sure, that sounds fun.
Yeah. Nice. So I think we'll kind of montage a bit of you getting to meet the other dwarves that are kind of maintaining this this kind of little basically post-apocalyptic holdout, right, in the ruins of what was once a massive fortress, and now they've been reduced to guarding individual partially crumbled places, right, with this single working ballista. But I think for the meal, they probably take you to a place underground, right, where they've carved out this hall from the earth, and it's lit by a chandelier that is a single shining crystal, right, and the way the move works, it calls for you, the companions, to help prepare the meal. So I guess my question is, which of you either contribute something from your own victuals to the meal, or wants to assist the dwarves in the kitchen to put this meal together.
I'm pretty familiar with cooking. That was kind of one of my roles on the home farm, so I could do that.
Absolutely. All right, Marion. So what the move says here is, when you share a meal, the companion who is cooking describes how they try to enliven the rations, then tell a story of home and roll plus true. So let's do that in order. How are you enlivening the rations of the dwarves?
Well, I've got a little something that I keep on me at all times. I've got a little pack of herbs and spices that I brought from home. Just a little bit
very
of
carefully distinguished from the little vial of poison that you also keep
on the opposite side of my belt. So I carry those up and I say, these are from my hometown. You can't these won't grow very many other places. I'd love to share them with you, and hand them over to the cooks as we begin our meal.
Yeah. The dwarf cook takes a sniff and is like, interesting. Let's let's see. And like pours like probably like more than you would advise, right? Like of this this herb into the into this like stew she's making. Beautiful. And now tell me a story of home. What does Marion kind of reflect on, right, from home as the meal is prepared?
I would say probably a creature comfort from home that I brought secretly on the journey, kind of referring to the spice. I would say it's like, yeah, one of my closest friends, we grew up together. He gave me this pack of spice when I confided to him that I was going to head out and follow my siblings in the war against the Doomslord, and he told me that I've always got to take care of myself and those around me, even if I can't do it perfectly. I have to do the best that I can. I have to put in that effort. And this spice reminds me of that and of the bond that we have as close friends. And I really hope that he's still there when I get back.
I love it. Yeah, and I think without like further explanation, the dwarf cook is like tearing up and like wiping away tears. You're gonna now make a roll plus true because you have enlivened the rations, told a story of home. So make a roll plus true. Your true as the bodyguard is 2. So that's nice.
And that's with 2d6, right?
2d6 plus 2.
So I get a total of 6 plus 2 is 8.
Okay, good. Because I will tell you on a 6 minus, what happens here is you feast too long and something overtakes you. But you have rolled a hit here. On a hit, peace and fellowship reign at your table. You may clear a named burden. So is there a burden you are ready to clear, Marion? As we'll say that the stew comes out and there's the 3 of you and a dozen dwarves seated around this table that's hewn from a big slab of slate, right? And the question is, is there a burden you're ready to kind of see lifted off of you during this meal?
I would say I look around the table at the people eating, and I see a younger female dwarf, a little bit older than I am, and it immediately calls to mind my sister that I had brought with me. And when I'd left the farm, and I'm confiding to the fellowship and those around me, I say, when I left the farm, I didn't feel as though my parents were able to take care of my sister because they were elderly, and I needed to make sure that she would be safe because I couldn't be certain of anything. So I brought my sister with me because the safest place would be where I was. And while we were journeying, we came across some difficult circumstances, but we managed to get past them fairly well. But at a certain point, we were running from some terrible monsters, and we got very close to a cliff, and I was trying to run ahead, and she had tripped and fallen behind me, and I had the choice of either running ahead or getting my sister. So I ran back to get my sister, and one of the monsters swung at us, and it hit the ground right next to us, and it crumbled the cliff. We both fell down. I managed to grab a hold of the edge, holding my sister, but I couldn't hold on enough, and she fell, and my sister died because of me. And I kind of sit there, not even realizing what I just told everyone, as I'm confessing this dark, horrible thing, and the reality of the situation hits me again, as it did before when I was able to escape from the monsters, knowing that I wasn't able to save my sister.
I think a dwarf kind of sighs and says, "Because of the monsters, son, you you did everything you could for her. We can't hold on to everything, even with bigger hands than we have. And then ladles more stew into your bowl, putting it back in front of you. On a 7 to 9, one other partaker may add a detail and clear a named burden, but someone else is conspicuously silent. What's troubling them? So, since we have two companions here, one of you is going to get to clear a burden, and one of you has to be, silent and troubled by something. Posey, any preferences among those?
I am. I'm totally good clearing one because I have one already, but I don't know what you're thinking, Eve, as well. Like,
no, I feel like Flamin's fine with being secretly burdened, sort of a glutton for burdensment here.
Okay, yeah, I think.
Yeah. So Posey, add a detail to the story, and you can clear a burden yourself.
Yeah. The story about the spices, or the but I guess the other story was your burden, because I think one of the, as she's listening, maybe I can interpret it this way, as she's listening to Marion kind of like say all these things, like her spoon is getting like lower and lower into the stew, and she's just looks like really like, oh, don't. And then looks kind of sad, and then kind of like bursts out and is like, no, Marion, like, what? You weren't the only one who ran back. I mean, I was back ahead, and right before, right before the monsters grabbed us, I could have, I saw that the ground was shaking under both of you, and I had a chance to kind of run back to try and grab you guys, because I saw you go, and I had some kind of rope, and I was going to throw the rope at you, but the ground started shaking so much I would have had to get closer. And I got too scared. Of going on the rope on the ground. And then the rope would have gotten both of you, and you wouldn't have had to hang on. So it's fellowship for a reason, but I'm sorry that I didn't do that. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to go and grab you both. Can you ever forgive me for not adventuring, for not being the strong adventurer?
I think what the dwarf said is right. It's not us that's wrong. It's the monsters, and it's the Doomslord who did all this to us. As much as I might want to, I can't hold that against you, because when I had the option to run off and not save my sister, I wanted to take that really badly, really, really badly. So I can't in good faith blame you for that. But thank you for telling me. I feel like we've grown closer through this.
Okay, I think that she just kind of like pats you and says, thanks. And also like scoots probably, and like biscuits that are over there, and like scoots the biscuits over to you as well. Like, you can go here, you have fun.
The biscuits are tasty but very hard, right? Like they're made for stronger teeth.
I like.
It takes like 9 to get at them. Yeah. You're clearing the burden. Courage wavering at a key moment.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense to me. Flamin, I think the dwarf girl, Marion noticed earlier, like kind of like pulls at your cloak, right, with like the many colors, and holds it up so she can see the like black burny handprints on it. She's like, must be a story behind those.
There certainly is. We were escaping from a tower that was turning to magma when I whipped off my cloak and dangled it down from the heights to rescue our bold adventurers. They had to haul themselves up as I, of course, lay on the ground with my bad ankle. And I thought that they wouldn't make it, especially since Marion is too shy to tell you this. But he was actually bitten on the shoulder by one of the monster babies.
Matching up with his illusory injury from before.
Yeah.
This is great, and I love that possibly this this tale spins out of kind of epic recounting of what has in fact just occurred.
It was terrible.
Yeah, plus needs your mouth too full of biscuit too, like it was just like
Right.
Nice. So here's a question. Shall we chart a course forward? You have this moment of rest among the dwarves, but your hometown still beckons. So I wonder which of you would like to roll chart a course to bring our traveling companions onwards.
Cloven might be best for that.
Okay. I can do that. So now what do I do as I'm doing this? Okay, tell a story of the journey.
When you chart a course for your traveling band, tell a story of the journey and roll plus keen. And this move basically gives us permission to cut to the next moment of interest here, right? It tells us a little about whether you're landing in a position of strength or in a more difficult position as you move forward from your current environs to the next site. We'll say that the next thing you would have to pass next through the coral shallows. So you're charting a course to safely bring yourself and your companions through the coral shallows.
I feel like it's got to be the service you paid for with a song from home and the verse you omitted. Let me think about this.
Oh man, this is a great story. And if you want to get a bonus on this, there is a list of evocative details, and if you weave an evocative detail into your story, then you take advantage on the move you're rolling. So I will share this screen for a moment so folks watching along get to see. Here is some of the stories of the journey we started to tell, and some of the stories of home, stories of doom. That's on the table if things get much more dangerous, and we're seeing the retirement of a character as perhaps the hunters come down on them. But evocative details over there on the far right, that is a list of some evocative details that if you add them to a story, they give you an advantage, and it just hopefully provides a little extra grist of inspiration. Helps people hit some of the imagery and themes of this Tolkien-esque world, and optionally, if someone ever just brings something up organically, and you're like, wow, that was great, you can write it down on the evocative details list, and this provides incentive to reincorporate that. It's kind of some advanced level play to be I'm going to listen for evocative details and add them in and then weave them back, and we're going to get so many extra dice.
Okay, so this is when we were right before. Let me think. We had just escaped a group of the hunters, and were in desperate need of a place to rest, a place to spend the night that would be, and also we had to leave all our supplies behind, so we no longer had food or provisions for the journey. We come to an inn. And I take it upon myself to say, you have heard of the exploits of the great Flamen. I will here offer a tale of my adventures in exchange for room and board and some potatoes and whatnot to take with us.
Gotta get those potatoes.
And I sing this song from our home, which you guys are like, but that isn't actually like a tale of Flamen. It's just a song that we all heard growing up. But you don't mention this. About the mysterious stranger who rides into town on a black horse, who wears a great hat with a red feather, who, what does he do first? Who turns the straw in the barns into gold, fulfilling the hopes and dreams of all the villagers, and then takes one of the gold straws, bends it into a ring, and offers it to the most beautiful maiden in the town. She holds it in her hand, but does not put it on her finger, takes it away with her. The mysterious stranger says he will wait for her on his horse at the crossroads at midnight, but as he is waiting there, she rides by on the horse of another, wrapped in the folds of his cloak. I don't know if that is right, the face of a friend under the cloak of a stranger. So she leaves the mysterious man, who must ride away in sorrow and bereft. And the verse that I omit is the verse where the verse where many moons later, this same beautiful maiden, now married to the one who she rode away with, gives birth to a child with the flaming black eyes of the man on the horse.
Oh man! So you felt like this part of the story was not appropriate for winning your room and board.
I had my reasons. Yes.
Perhaps it complicated things. The flaming black eyes.
Perhaps we just needed to feel sorry for him and not like he ended up with the last laugh. He's just real sad, so you should be nice to us.
Yeah. Go ahead and make a roll plus keen with advantage, so you can take 3d6 and then you'll hang on to the top 2 of those.
Oh, interesting. Okay. How do I do 3d6? Add dice to your roll.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see if that works. Did that work?
It looks like the last roll had just 2d6 in it.
Oops. Okay. How do I do it?
Click on the d6 icon. Little grid of dice.
Huh.
If you have physical dice, I'm also happy for you to roll them. Or if you
can you all that do? Can you just roll 3?
Yeah. You've got some dice in front of you, right, Danielle?
Yeah.
Andre.
You
Let's do that. So roll 3d6 for your friend Flamen here, and then you'll take the top 2 and add Flamen's keen.
Ooh, that was a great detail. We have a 1, a 4, and a 6, so we're gonna go with the 4 and the 6.
It is a good thing you have that advantage.
Yes, and plus 2 for keen.
Yeah, so 12 all told. That is good.
That's not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. So here's what happens, right? On a 10 plus, when you chart a course, it says on a hit you find a way forward. On a 10 plus, you come on any obstacles from a position of strength and confidence. So I think what happens here, and we'll play out a little of this, but we won't get into a whole nother kind of adventure segment. I just want to give a sense here of what what's coming next for our adventurers. We see the coral shallows. I'm gonna say that you are perhaps like in like a little rowboat, right? And like you're kind of like able to row across yourselves to get to the other side of the coral shallows. To help me paint the scene, Posey, what makes the watery scenery here so soothing?
I think it's the fact that there's these grasses that are in the shallows too, and with the thing, there's something about them where there's a sort of musical noise. It's got like some parts have different little tones to them, so it sounds like this little chorus, this almost like a watery sort of wind chimes thing in the grass.
Yeah, like watery wind chimes in the grass. That's amazing. And I think you're kind of like rowing for a little bit when that kind of musical sound from the grasses seems to turn into a real song, right? And then you realize it's somehow like someone underneath the water is harmonizing with the grasses, and you kind of like peek over the boat's edge, and you see kind of in a place where the shallows get like slightly deeper, right? Kind of refracted through the water, what seems to be a female figure with like flowing gauzy blue robes around her, who and somehow this song is clearly like coming up from her, and Marion, how do you realize just in time that you need to back paddle and not be drawn in closer to the siren song beneath the water?
She is fully towards the edge of the boat.
I think I would use gaze into the distance with remembering learning about a place or people. I would say it's like, wait a minute, underwater, singing, very pretty. Is this a problem? This is a siren. I'm gonna say, I snap myself too, and I say, this is just like what we read at home. That's a siren. We can't get close to that. We have to get away from here. And nice. I fully pull Posey from leaning off the boat.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, beautiful.
But they were just pretty and they just sang songs, right?
They're nice.
They're nice. Oh no.
Yeah. So the like the song at first you couldn't tell if there were any words to the song, right? But like as you listen, you start hearing words, but they sound different to each of you. And I think Flamen, the song is kind of singing about how you won't be understood or appreciated if you follow the path that you're on, but if you go down beneath the waves, you will become a glorious and respected king under the water.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah. Marion, the song, you're like deliberately trying not to listen to the song, but like the bits that you catch are like promising that your sister is waiting for you under the water and waiting for you to return to her. And I think what you were picking up was just kind of singing of the wonders of the undersea kingdom, right? That like you'll see things far more splendid than anything above water if you come down below. So Flamen, you are
like normal lyrics. They didn't even have to do masked lyrics for me. It was just the normal ones.
Flamen, you see you're intrigued by the
absolutely
by the siren song.
What a pretty lady.
Are you also like leaning over the edge of the boat?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not at all being wise here. No alarm bells ringing.
Oh boy.
Beautiful. Posey, you got yanked back by Marion, as you were like ready to like just topple right over the side. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've learned, and seeing how distressed he seems about it, like kind of, especially since I regretted not helping out before. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, okay, and I think I turn and I see Flamen fully headed over. I'm like, oh no. So would this be like could we pull together, or is that only to have to do with the roll? Like, could Marion and I pull together?
So pull together is kind of the like the helping mechanic here, where if somebody else is making a roll and they don't roll well, and you're like, no, we're going to use some teamwork and bring them back from the brink. That's when you would pull together. So possibly, if a roll went badly here, pull together would be appropriate. But it feels like the thing that might be about to happen is Posey, attempting in some way to, rouse Flamen,
then
tie Flamen to the mast, whatever is necessary, right? Like, tell me about what you might do.
I think that I'm just like nudging Marion, and I'm like, the song, and I think I'm start singing some of that song that like Flamen was singing in the bar, but it's like the lyrics that we know, and it's like, not necessarily Flamen, but it's like, and I'm sure in the version that we grew up with, it was like, and then the stranger stayed in the village and settled, but he lived a happy life or something.
Oh, nice. I like that there's many versions of this story, but you're kind of, it sounds like sort of like loudly singing the that song that you remember Flamen singing to get room and board to try and break the spell of the siren song.
Yes.
I like that. I wonder if that is a roll plus true to like kind of like get through to your companion by breaking in with this melody from home.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't I use the roller then, so you can pop that up, and I have +1 true.
You have +1 true. What could go wrong?
Yeah. That could. Ooh, just
oh, a 7. So when you negotiate an obstacle on a 7 and 9, the GM will present you with a hard choice or painful cost. I think you'll be able to get through to Flamen, right? But I think that to do it, you'll have to kind of you have to like listen to the song enough to know how to like break into it with your own song, right? Like, because if it's just totally discordant, Flamen can tune it out. But if you sort of like start singing in harmony with the siren and then like pull away from that, you can actually draw his attention. But this means that you listen to the siren song yourself, and I'd like for you to take a burden and feel free to give it a name, like whatever burden the siren song might instill in you, Posey. I'd love for you to take that on.
Okay. Yeah, I think that I think I'll take a burden, but I wanted to name the burden that I had, which was, I think, what the siren song was saying, which is this tentativeness about returning home, kind of like scared of being small, not in stature, but like in scope.
Yeah, that works for me, absolutely. So basically what you're doing is naming one of your burdens, which you can do at any time when you have a quiet moment. You can name a burden, and taking an additional unnamed burden, which puts you at more burdens than you were at before. Yeah, you got one named and one unnamed there. We are coming to the end of our time. So before we start going our separate ways, we'll say we pull back on like Flamen. What does it look like when like the spell breaks for you, I guess?
Man, heck with you guys.
I was
He's so
enjoying that.
unthrilled. He's not at all grateful to be rescued. It's like, you people, fine. Now I'm back in the boat. Hello.
I'm like still singing like there is more than one way to be remembered. I'm like, appreciation comes in many forms. Like,
Nah.
Then why don't we each give a like glimpse of our characters in the days and weeks ahead, just as a like parting montage of what you think you might see as this journey unfolds. Flamen, if you're up to go first, and then I believe we have to bid you adieu.
Yeah. So I don't know whether this would ever have come up if we had kind of played it out in a more normal way, but one of the thing that Flamen is most worried about going home is that he is pretty sure he does have a little child waiting for him.
That he was the stranger on the horse.
Yes, he was. And so I think a thing that would maybe be a cool theme for him to see would be signs of new growth. When I saw the new growth in the ashen wood, I was like, oh, see, that could be really meaningful for him to slowly start to see it as a kind of a springtime and not just like a thing that everybody's going to be mad because he was super irresponsible, which he totally was.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. And I love the idea that like maybe there's, by the time eventually you're approaching the hometown, there's like a child like waiting at the edge of town, like what?
And he's like almost maybe possibly somewhat excited and not just mad by that time. But all right. I'm sorry, I do have to leave now, but it was fantastic to do this. Thank you so much. This was super fun.
Great to play with you, Eve.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, great to meet you all.
Posey, do you want to add a little like epilogue vignette for us? Something else that we'd see.
I think that one of the things that and also going off that makes sense why Flamen had the babies that we were fighting, which I was that was the evil thing at the beginning, but
monstrous baby formed hunters, absolutely.
I think that having to hear the siren song and then also weave a harmony that is saying like, yes, these are good things, but there are more good things than just those things. I think that we see us, taking this scenic route back and having to kind of, I'm sure, fight through more things. And I think that that what the dwarves said about how sad they were about their homeland being wrecked has really put in her mind that this idea that she can help repair things at home and see beautiful things where she's at as well. And so I think that you see her collecting little bits and pieces, like either like a shiny, like a bit of gem or something from the dwarves, and she's collecting things
like a little chip of sapphire.
Yeah, a little chip of sapphire and a little, I think she gets a few grasses or things like that and tucks
from
them
the shallows,
in maybe with some roots so that she can bring some of these things back. So I think she's hoping to create like a little exhibit or something like that back home where
wonderful. And Marion, what would we see as a little vignette, closing us out? We haven't gotten to have the whole arc of the adventure, but what would you want as a last image to leave us with?
I would want Marion would probably head back home and have the difficult job of telling all of the rest of his siblings who managed to make it back safe his mistakes and the very heart-wrenching act of it all, but then feeling the love of that familial bond as they come together and realize that, hey, you know what, we can still do it. We can still make a thing. And look, everything turned out, as horrible as it may be. Everything turned out, and then eventually being able to move on, and then gradually Marion would take more charge of the farm and grow to be a more responsible individual.
I love that we started off with a Doomslord seeking an end to time, and then we end with, like scenes of time passing, right? Of, the crops growing and being harvested and being planted, and maybe, children being born and being raised, right? And, time marching on in the
And Cozy
hometown.
definitely runs over a lot to the farm and is like, Marion, I need help with the grasses. They're not fertilizing right, or something like that. Like, I'm gonna kill the thing. And like, no, I need you here. Hold this right there. We have to hang this.
We need more chandeliers.
I need a chandelier.
More chandeliers, right? Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for playing back again from the Broken Land, and thank you to anyone who tuned in. I'm so glad you could join us. So as a reminder, I'm Alexi Sargent. I write games under Cloven Pine Games, and you can check out my gaming endeavors by following Cloven Pine Games on Twitter, or checking me out on itch.io or on Substack, where I have a gaming newsletter. And for this game in particular, Back Again from the Broken Land, which I created with my wife, Leah Labresco Sargent, you can learn more about it by checking out the links below this video. There's a link to our Kickstarter campaign, and there's a link to a way to sign up to be able to to know when pre-orders open for non-Kickstarter backers if you're excited about this game. But for now, goodbye and stay safe out there. And if you're doing more Doxacon, have a great rest of Doxacon.
Yay. Thank you.